Wear your safety glasses. Always. Don't forget. What's up everybody? Jake from Prism Supply here with my 2022 Pan America Special S. In this maintenance video, we are gonna show you how to clean your chain, lube your chain, and set the proper tension for your chain. As you can see, this chain is in rough shape right now. I haven't done anything with this chain since we did the New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, all the way to Sturgis trip. And obviously we were in all the sorts of conditions, so this chain got some rust. Actually, an absolutely perfect time for us to clean it and lubricate it. So the tools required for this job are 32mm socket or wrench, 36mm socket or wrench. In this case, we used the two from the Pan America tool roll. Also used a Phillips head screwdriver for chain tension. 13mm was used for the axle adjusters, a brush for cleaning the chain, tape measure for measuring the chain tension, a spray bottle mix of dish soap and water for cleaning the chain, and then some chain lubricant. The very first thing that we're gonna do is clean the chain. For an O-ring chain, you're supposed to have some specific type of cleaner, or they make a specific type of cleaner. If you don't have that, which I don't have, I'm just gonna put some soap and water together and just spray it on the chain. Just gonna use this chain brush and get as much dirt and grime and rust off of it as I can. So we put the cardboard down just to like help keep the work area clean, especially like on a metal table like this, like it won't soak up any of the soap and water, and so it'll just run onto the floor. There's a couple ways that we can do this. One, that's the completely correct way by the book, and the other way is the way that you shouldn't do it, but the way that I do it. All right, so the first way, so I'm just gonna spray a section of this chain. I'm just cleaning this, basically as simple as what you would think, but also making sure I get the bristles from the top and the bottom into the links of the chain, because that's really what we're trying to get out. We don't want any of the grit to build up on the O-rings and wear the O-rings out. When you're happy with it, you can go around the other side, just like that. And so when you're happy with how clean you've got that one section, you just rotate the wheel and do it again. Just like this. You just keep doing that all the way around. That's the appropriate way. That's the right way. If you want to see the Jake way, then what I'm actually gonna do is fire the bike up, put it into gear, and then just let it run. And obviously keep your hands away from the chain. I have this long brush, so if something were to get caught, I would just let go of the brush and that'd be it. So I'm gonna spray it first. Like that. Take my brush. Just kind of moving it back and forth, making sure I get all the areas. Holding it up, the bottom side, and then same thing on the inside. There you go. So that's the Jake way. Again, I don't recommend doing that unless you feel confident in yourself doing that. I emptied the soap and water out and just filled it with straight water, and I'm just gonna soak the chain with water for the time being, trying to get rid of all that soap that's in it. All right, so I'm just gonna spray a little bit of air, dry it out. Wear your safety glasses. Always. Don't forget. All right, there you go. Now I got the chain relatively clean. Overall, it's pretty clean. I'm gonna use some chain lubricant. I'm a fan of this one. It's super tacky, so it stays on for a while, but it also dries clear, which I like. As most chain lubes do, they come with this little clear tube. Here's a little tech tip. I put 2 zip ties around this, and I just store this guy right there. So it's always there. Instead of storing it here, and it gets bumped off and you can never find it when you need it. This is also why I like to have the cardboard down here. Again, this stuff is super tacky. I don't like this stuff being on the lift. It's super hard to wipe up. Even when I'm doing this, I'll figure out a way to like block it as I'm spraying. You can do this with the bike running. That's definitely a messy way to do it. Same way as I cleaned it, just turn the bike on, put it in first gear and run it. Honestly, that's how I would do it. But again, the proper way would be to do it all slowly, manually, rotate the tire, spray a little bit, rotate, spray a little bit, rotate. But basically what we're trying to do here with the chain lube is get it in between the links. That's where your O-rings are. The pins that run through there are already pre-lubed and pre-greased. So this actually most likely won't seep past the O-rings. What we're really trying to do here is just lube in between the links as well as keep the O-rings lubed. And honestly, you're not gonna hurt anything by like spraying on these center pins, center rollers. I just did the top side. You also have to come back and do the bottom side, but you would do that the same way. Just again, hold your piece of cardboard here as you're doing it. The other way is we actually start the bike, put in first gear, and same thing, but this is a messy way, keep that in mind. I also like to run the bike after I spray the lube because I do feel like it helps seep the lubricant in between all the pins, all the rollers, O-rings, etc. Don't forget to get both the top and the bottom side of the chain. There's a million ways to clean and lubricate a chain. Do it your way. Just take care of it. I would say that's like the most important thing, is just make sure you're taking care of your chain. If not, you'll be replacing it a lot. And they're not the most fun, easiest thing to replace, especially these because they don't have your normal master clip. These are all like riveted pins on, so you'd have to like cut the chain, put a new one on, re-rivet pins. A little bit more difficult to replace the chain. Just go ahead and take care of it and it'll last a good while. All right, so the last part of our chain maintenance video is setting the chain tension. The appropriate chain tension for a Pan America is 50 to 60 millimeters, which is 50 millimeters is roughly 2 inches and 60 millimeters is roughly 2 3/8 inches. I just did that in my head, so don't hold me to that if that's wrong. There's multiple different ways to measure chain tension, chain slack, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to show you one way that works for me. So your front sprocket is right here, so you can roughly measure from this cover center here to there, and it's a little under 30 inches. So let's say the center of that would be 14 7/8. So I'm gonna come roughly to the center, which is 14 7/8 in this area right here. And that's the point that I'm gonna use to measure the chain tension. I like that this tape measure has both metric and standard measurements on it. And like I said, the spec for a Pan Am is 50 to 60 millimeters. So what I can do here is just prop this up right behind the chain. And at its lowest point, I'm gonna set 60 millimeters, which is right there. And then I'm gonna raise the chain. And if it goes past the top of the tape measure, we know that there's more than 60 millimeters worth of throw on it. And so we're like right at the tip of it, honestly, over the tape measure. So we're probably at 65 millimeters, which is too loose. We need to actually move the rear axle back, which will tighten this chain. And the way that you do that is loosen your axle nuts. The Harley-Davidson Pan America tool roll comes with these 2 wrenches. They're the right size for your axle, and this fits the other side perfectly. So I'm gonna loosen the axle, and then right here you have your axle adjuster. Tightening or loosening this nut right here, it's either moving the wheel back or forward. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen the axle. We're not taking the axle out, so you don't need to remove this clip. Just leave the clip on there, and all we're trying to do is just break the axle loose. You just want it loose enough so that when you're adjusting the tensioners, the wheel moves freely back and forth. And I would say the other thing to be very cautious of is making sure you're moving each side equally. A quick way to do that is if you just look at this nut, you can measure by flats. There's a flat up top, and what I'll do is I'll just move it 1 flat on each side, or however many flats. In this case, I'm gonna go 2. So I went 2 flats there, and so this flat right here is at a little bit of an angle. So I'm just gonna do the same thing. 1, 2. And before I tighten the axle, I'm gonna check the chain tension again. Setting it right at the 60 there, and then making sure it doesn't go above the top. Now we'll set this at 50. What we really want is the chain to go above the top of the tape measure. That way we know it's in that 50 to 60 range. So when we measured it at 60, it didn't go above the top of the tape measure. When we measure at 50, it should go above the top of the tape measure. Yep, and so we're right there. We're right at the 50 mark, which is totally fine with me, because over time the chain will stretch, and then we have 10 millimeters to spare. You really don't need to adjust these much to get a little bit more chain tension on the chain. Now that we got the chain tension set where we want it, we want to make sure the rear axle is tight against both axle adjusters, because right now there's play like left to right, and we want all that out of it. And so a quick like dirt bike trick is to jam something between the sprocket and the chain, and then honestly you just kind of rotate the chain until it stops. You don't want to go too hard, it doesn't require much, and just hold it there. As you're holding it with one hand, just come back and then tighten the axle down. And once there's a little tension on it, you just pull that screwdriver out or shop rag or whatever you used. I'm gonna come back and fully tighten the axle. And there's a correct torque spec for this, so look in your manual and make sure you're torquing it correctly. Now that the axle's tight, there's obviously no play between this, and if there is play, that means you have bad wheel bearings and you should get that fixed. That's a wrap for the chain maintenance video on a 2022 Pan America Special. Again, there's a million ways to clean a chain or to lube a chain or to adjust the chain tension. Hopefully this is helpful to somebody. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, like, comment, subscribe.